All right. Good evening, everybody. We'll call this meeting of the Buckfield Select Board to order for Tuesday, March 17th, 2026 at 8 p.m. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. We've got a quorum tonight. The first order of business is going to be us going into executive session pursuant to 36 MRS subsection 841 to deliberate over application for abatement. I'll make a motion. We move into executive session.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
So we're going to move upstairs for this and then we'll come back down.
Let's
get muted for that time.
Yeah, Neil, I'm gonna shut off the camera and whatever until he's back. Hold on. There you go.
6:40.
Time travel.
You don't have to make a motion, you're just returning. Can't vote in executive session anyway, so.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes for 5/26, 8/26
I'll second.
discussion. All those in favor?
Just give me 1 second.
Absolutely.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as written. Second.
The only update I have, like Stacy's report is in there. In her report, she said that we hadn't received the loaner ambulance yet. We do have it now. It's insured, it's licensed, so. Barring an oil change, because we got it with, it needed an oil change. It'll be insured.
Great thing ever.
We're making progress on that, so.
Excellent.
I think 451 is still in Buckfield though. We've got it somewhere in Buckfield. I'll have to double check with the chief. They weren't gonna take it with
Make
them.
it sound like we lost an egg.
No, we were gonna send it,
Somewhere in Buckfield.
we were gonna house it there until it's time to do the remount, but for some reason, when they delivered the ambulance, they didn't take the old one with them, so. It's still in Buckfield.
All right, all those in favor? The total on that's $140,919.71. Approval of the minutes from the March 3rd, 2026 select board meeting.
I'll make a motion, we approve. I'll second that.
Further discussion?
They look good.
Favor?
I have a question. Do we need a separate motion for each?
It's up to you. I mean, as long as you're making it clear that you're,
It's long, okay, as long as my motion is clear.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to.
yeah. You would need to read each parcel number to make sure it's included in the motion.
Right. I would like to make a motion that we approve the municipal quit claim deeds. A, parcel 019-002-003-A. B, parcel 007-002-002-003. C, parcel 007-001-012-000. D, parcel 012-002-007-002. E, parcel 012-002-007-000. And F, parcel 012-001-016-000.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
I abstain.
Okay,
These are the papers that need to be signed for this, correct?
Yes, and I'm gonna have to notarize those, so don't leave till I get your signatures tonight.
Okay.
All right, committee appointments.
There isn't any. It's a generic.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Maybe I'm losing it.
I'm just playing games with you guys.
Yeah. See if we're paying attention.
All right. So we were planning on the joint select board and budget committee meeting at 7, right? But,
Should we adjourn?
And do a
Yes.
10 to 13 minute recess until budget committee is here.
okay. Let's, I'll make a motion. We, just, do we adjourn?
Recess.
Recess. Recess until 7 p.m. for the joint select board budget committee meeting.
Second thought.
Paper. And recess.
Your mic on.
Yes.
Okay.
Here's you.
So, well, that's recess first.
Good. All right, so we'll come out of recess at, all right, 7 PM.
Yeah, that clock's not
Oh, yeah,
7:01 PM. Whatever, close enough.
and continue into our joint session with the budget committee.
7:01 PM. We're gonna call the budget committee meeting to order, declaring a quorum. We have a quorum in the two of us. 2 out of 3 is good for the budget committee. First order of business for our committee is we have to approve the minutes of the meeting on February 24th. We're gonna make a motion that we approve the minutes.
We'll second it.
All in favor? Our minutes are approved. And we can now move into the joint budget committee meeting.
So I broke your agenda by department so that we could just at least hit the department. And then I'll try to highlight any adjustments, major changes or whatever. Ask you if you have any questions, concerns, whatever, and then we can have that discussion. And then in your packet, at the very back of it, there's like a workbook. So that's what I'm hoping. If you guys make any changes, you can at least notate what those changes are in there. And then at the end, vote by department so that we have similar to what the budget committee did. So you'll make a vote on general government, you'll make a vote on public safety. That way it's clear and we know what each item is, and that'll be reflected on the warrant that I have to put together for you. Does that work for everybody?
That works for me.
Perfect. All right. So general government. Much of what's in here is mostly COLA increases. What did I do? 3.5%. It's been a while since I looked at this. Let me pull it up. All right. So I did 3.5% COLAs for the tax collector and deputy clerk. And my salary is contractual, so it's based off of what I put in there is based off of that. The only big increases that are in this really are health insurance. We had a 8.7% increase in health insurance. So that's reflected in this budget. Insurance, as you've seen the last 3 or 4 years, we've had double-digit increases. I'm hopeful that this year it won't be double digits, but I've proposed 10% because that seems to be where we land every year. Plus, we're going to have to add that other property that we have. So I figured the 10%, if they come in at 7, adding the house will kind of meet in the middle and we'll be where we need to be. Audit services, that did go, I've marked that one up because if you look at the historic track record in 23, we were at 9,500, 24, we were at 11,4, 24, 25, we were at 13,7. So it's one of those services that's in demand, but there's not a whole lot of them out there. So we really can't be too picky about it. And they've done a good job for us. So I budgeted that at 15,000. Already hit the insurance. There's an adjustment in the certified main assessor wage line because we now have a shared role. So our assessor is also our code enforcement officer and our local plumbing inspector. So I was able to bring that one down. And between what I had in code enforcement and what I have in assessing was save roughly, what was it, $4,590 in doing that. I did reduce the maintenance and repair on this building by 10,000. Last year, or this current year, we put $10,000 into that, into the reserve account specifically for this building. I think 20,000 is adequate for the stuff that we're currently working on. Thoughts on that?
Sure, we want to take that 10,000 out.
I feel like you guys asked that same question.
Just seems like every year something happens.
So I'll tell you what we're doing right now. Like, so obviously we've replaced the 12 windows. A share of that belonged to us. It was roughly $12,000 is what the town had to pay for that. We're not doing any more windows in this budget unless we get a grant or some sort of funding outside of that. I have submitted the application. You know, I'm in violation of the policy, but I had given you guys a heads up. I did resubmit the congressionally directed spending request like I did 2 years ago. I had to revise the estimate or whatever, but we're still looking at a year and a half before we'll get any answers on that. If we were able to get that funding, that would replace the other 65 windows that we have in this building. If we don't get that funding, I think what we need to do moving forward is on an annual basis, budget for replacing one bank of windows a year at a minimum. And that's about 15,000, barring any increases, because it's the only way we're gonna be able to make any progress in replacing these windows in this building. We've already put a ton of money into the building. I mean, we've replaced the roof. We've got new floors all down here, except for we're still working on the town office. So I've got about 50% of the town office recarpeted, with the plan of this coming year, replacing the rest of it, which would be part of this $20,000. I'm thinking roughly $7,000 to get the carpet done and the 2 bathrooms retiled, because if you've been in there, they're pretty rough. So that'll take care of this whole floor will be done, except for the BBC office, which I'm not so worried about that room. I'm more worried about what the public sees on a daily basis when they come in. So that's what I have planned for next year, barring no incidents.
So if we found a grant that we wanted to apply to or apply for that required some money from us, we don't have that set aside. So part of what I'm thinking is maybe don't take that money out, so it's there. I just, for people to understand that the work, and I think most people do, that the work that's being done in the building isn't due to, we want a cosmetic change. It's holes in things are breaking. It wasn't that you didn't like the color of the carpet in the office. It's for health and safety reasons, the floor needed, something needed to be done. And I think sometimes the longer you wait to fix something, the more it costs. So these are just some thoughts to set aside some money, or for us to at least have a discussion on what we could do. You know, we came across a $50,000 grant, but it needed some
A matching funder.
So this
a
budget,
small amount of seed money.
this budget passes as is. There'll be 22,000 plus all the interest that has been accumulating on that money in the next fiscal year, because this allocates $10,000 to that account in addition to the 10,000 that went there this year, plus the 2,500 that's already there. So there will be $22,500 plus interest in there.
So we're planning to spend that this year,
This year, like the current fiscal year I'm in now, or this coming year?
this coming year.
This coming year, I've got the carpeting and the tile for the bathrooms budgeted, which won't even take up half of this. We'll still have about $12,000 left in the maintenance line, in addition to that 22,000 that I don't have a plan to touch, because ideally what I want to do, barring any emergencies, which we do have an emergency contingency that also has funds in it, is use this as a share of the match if we do get CDS. So that's why I'm still asking to put money into that, to build that up, so that if we do find out, hey, we did get the funding, but there is a town match, at least we've already got, you know, that much money towards that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Is this the funding that because I've been looking at our barren garden for a little while now outside the municipal center. Is this the funding that, new, I don't know what you call those, like pavers would come out of, or would that be a different line?
Yeah, so anything that we do,
Like here on the grounds?
on these grounds is gonna come out of the municipal center, maintenance and repair line. we do have some beautification funds
Right.
that are just sitting there that haven't been touched for years and years and years.
Yeah.
I want to have those pavers removed, whether they get replaced with something new or we grade
Okay.
away from the building so the water's not running into the building.
Yeah.
I think at a minimum, my plan is this summer to take that wall out of there and at
Okay.
least grade it to the sidewalk until if we decide to plant some shrubs out front again and build another wall, that's something that
Yeah.
we can put off until we have a plan. But I wasn't planning on replacing them at this time because they are kind of pricey.
I mean, that sounds fine to me. I mean, you know what works better, and yeah, I'd rather not spend a whole bunch of money on those
$1,000 on cement.
if they're just gonna crumble like that again.
I do need to get, that's the other thing, I do need to get a mason in here, somebody that knows what they're doing with concrete and get those front steps short up. The one on the left side it's been repaired in the past, probably the last time when Glenn was a town manager, I think they may have repaired it, but it needs to be repaired again.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's on my to-do list besides the carpet, but.
Okay.
General government, all right, so I didn't put this packet up the way I wanted to present it to you.
So we would move on from general
Well, I
government.
was gonna hit on revenues for general government too, real quick.
Okay.
Just so it's all in the same.
I just had a general government piece, so before. we move on.
So to put that into perspective, this current fiscal year, our budget is 548,415 for general government. That's assessing, insurance, the municipal center, the administration department. The current proposed budget is 572,807. However, even though there is an increase there, our administrative revenues the projections are up for this year. So where to?
Oh, their pages are.
Oh yeah, our pages are different. So if you look at the bottom page, number 42 is your admin revenues. No, you're good. So one of the big changes here from this current fiscal year is motor vehicle excise. We've been pretty conservative on our motor vehicle excise and we've consistently generated more than the projections. So I've projected 400,000 for motor vehicle excise this year. We were at 350, so that's up 50,000. So just the excise tax alone eats up the increase for admin. I know, depending on how you allocate it in a big spreadsheet, it should be going to the roads, which it is, and I can generate that. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what that was looking like. Aside from that, interest and cost is slightly up. Everything else is pretty much the same with the exception of anything tied to interest, except for the interest earned here. I think I underprojected a little bit this year. I've based everything off of 3.5% because obviously interest rates have started to taper down. So like the John D. Long Trust Fund, which goes to 4 different areas, that has been reduced from 4.5%, I believe is what I did last year, to 3.5%. So you see a decrease in that line, and that affects like the library, anything that's got a trust fund tied to it, you'll see a decrease in the interest. But overall, there's an increase in the municipal center rental fees because obviously we have that $1,200 a year lease with the BBC to rent that space and house their computers. So I increased that from $100, but overall we're a net negative on this budget if you look at administration revenues versus year over year. And I just wanted to hit on that for each department so you can kind of tie it together instead of waiting till the end to talk about it.
Thank you.
Just wanted to put it out there. I've given a lot more thought, researched some things. I've talked to Cameron and, I believe that Cameron would do his job and do it well with a roll of duct tape and a broken pencil, that he would make it work.
Don't even notice because he do it so well.
But what I see is with each year, we have new responsibilities, new forms, new data collection. That there's more and more and more that needs to be done. If we look at ourselves as the supervisors, we have an employee who I see is his plate is too full. And when any of us are working, I believe if you go into your job and you can't possibly get it all done and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're doing the best you can, if you have too much to do, perhaps the quality of your work is not what it could be, or you're not able to complete tasks to the degree that you want to. It's important, Cameron, that, and I think you know me well enough to know that this isn't in judgment of you, because again, what you are able to do with minimal resources is phenomenal. And anytime I come into this office, everyone is right up straight. They've got a lot going on. They have a lot to do. And two areas that I think that if someone had the time to look for grants and to apply for grants, there's a lot of grant money out there that could come into the town. And also, I know I brought it up last time, it's making sure that we have all of the information necessary in case there's an emergency. And that could be a flood, it could be an extended power outage, whatever it is. If we don't have all the information we need, we will lose out on tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, which won't be good for the town. So how do we get support? What does that look like? Who could that be? What I thought about is proposing a 1-year trial position. I would say that in this 1-year trial, for it to be part-time, 20 hours a week. What we're looking for at the end of the year is, did this position pay for itself? Was it beneficial? Is that too many hours? Is it not enough hours? I don't know if to look for the money to come from taxation, or Glenn had suggested perhaps looking at taking it from the fund balance. But when you have excellent employees, I think it's important that you take care of them. And with the amount of work that our town government needs to accomplish and accomplish well. So whether it's some kind of executive assistant, clerical assistant, job not limited to, but would include data entry, that could be basic bookkeeping. I'm not suggesting that this person have any control or decision-making over town finances, but certainly keying in all the information that comes on a piece of paper and then presenting it to the town manager for review, that could be useful. Someone who can do the research and draft grants that then could go to our town manager. And then any other kind of data collection or organizational task that takes up a lot of time and needs to be detail oriented. That person could take care of that and then again present it to the town manager. I think that it would benefit the town, benefit our employees, and I think it would benefit the town financially to have someone doing that work. That's my thought.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'd really like to prioritize in this, theoretical position, someone with like some project management experience who can help us keep track and keep on a proper timeline for things like that. We discussed at the solid waste committee, the programming that the state has coming down the pipeline, and I think it would be great if someone in this position could at least help facilitate in managing that. I do worry. I wonder if we should, yeah, thank you. I do wonder if we should kind of budget for a full-time position just so that we have some flexibility. I worry that perhaps a professional that would be really well qualified for this would be interested in a part-time position. So I just want to, my concern would be, I would want to open the door to, try to get that part-time position, but if that doesn't come through, be able to open it up to full-time if that's gonna help get someone in the door for this sort of thing.
I think the difference would, if we were looking at a part-time position, I think you could do an amount not to exceed $30,000. If you were to do a full-time position, because as soon as you have the full-time position, you then add in all the benefits.
Yeah.
So then you're looking at $60,000+ a year.
Yep.
And there's definitely enough work for somebody to do that full time.
Yep.
But
For sure. Yeah, absolutely part of the calculation that we would make.
right.
Any other comments on?
My concern is just about the ambiguity in this position right now for this fiscal year. Is because when you're talking about a grant writer or a project manager or a person, I forget the other thing that she said, but just those two positions in and of themselves, enormous. And if you're talking about part-time, as a grant writer, I'm not going to be, I'll just put myself, if I was this person, as a grant writer, project manager, I am not going to be able to, I would need to know what's going to take priority in this position. Am I on a busy week fulfilling grants, or am I doing data entry, bookkeeping? And so I am very concerned about posing a position and putting a position on this fiscal year that hasn't been detailed and planned out thoroughly.
I hear you. My thought was, and again, we could adapt, but my thought was data entry, basic accounting. I don't think that this needs to be an accountant. This isn't somebody who has to analyze any information. But I guess accounting skills.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I hear you with the grant writing, I think we full-time grant writer, but when we look at who our grant writer is right now and the amount of time he has for grant writing, no. So if we could get somebody who could even spend 4 hours a week just researching grants and collecting the information, that could make phenomenal difference. I at some level, I would leave it to the town manager to identify exactly what would be most beneficial to him. This is new because we haven't had a chance to discuss the budget yet. You've discussed the budget. We haven't discussed the budget. Knowing Cameron like I do, again, he won't ask for anything. Or I don't know, but if overall people don't think it would benefit the town, but having something I think is better than having nothing.
Yeah, the project manager idea is not coming from anyone but myself. It's just like my own crusade that I've been on because I wanted it with a new office employee, and I don't believe that ended up flushing out. So I would love someone with even just a touch of experience, not even officially titled project manager, but just someone who can keep a calendar and a timeline and a sort of, breakdown of, grants that we're waiting on, projects that we're working on, that sort of thing. but I'm not a project manager. I don't know what the day-to-day looks like for that, and I'm not a grant writer either, and that's why I think that this position could be beneficial.
Didn't you just write one?
A junior.
Do not.
Junior grant writer.
Grant writer in training. I'm with you.
Yeah, and I mean, even in this hypothetical position, I would be happy to, you know, if this person can point us in the direction of grants, and if there are any that they feel comfortable having me start with for them to review, that's something I'd be open to, because it's something I have a personal interest in, but I'm currently paid $1,000 a year for this job, so I need to focus on other jobs.
Get a little more.
Sorry, 1,150.
Yeah, I can see the merits of it at some point, but I think at this stage of the game where there's a lot of unknowns. We're throwing a lot of stuff out here, when we do this, do that, do this. Then do it part-time. I don't see where it's gonna work. I'm not in favor of this at all. I think that, you know, if we would put it to, you know, flesh out more, what is, if you think about researching more for maybe next year's budget, but at this stage of the game, to throw something in on it, or might work, but it might not. I think, you know, so I don't feel comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable supporting it.
I guess my question would be, how do we take some things off his plate?
We have,
If everybody's already working full-time and everybody is already a little bit stressed out and irritated all the time, to continue to ask them to do more, I don't know is best practice. But that's,
I think, can I speak?
can I just say one more thing?
Yep.
In my time, anytime I've come into the town office, I've not seen anybody stressed, overworked, or just, I know everybody works, but I have not seen stress levels in here. Anytime I've been in here at all. Anytime I've come in, everybody's been able to help. But whatever you need, they're helping everybody else that comes in here. I've not seen any bad interactions in this office. I haven't seen where people have snapped at anybody or anything like that.
oh no, they're phenomenal. They're
But
phenomenal.
what I'm getting at is, I don't see where that is the big. That's just
No,
my
thank you.
observation.
Yeah, thank you for your input.
So Sandra and I talked about this a little bit today when I was at the store, but so I guess my concerns, I've got a couple of concerns. The first concern is that, similar to what Bob said, is I'm concerned that there's not enough time to really think this out, lay it out, have it planned so that when we hire somebody, I can execute what the goal is. You know what I mean? With the limited time we have before the new budget starts. Whereas if we could really hash this out, come up with a solid job description, come up with a plan on exactly what I want them to do so that we can do that, and then target that for next year, I could probably support that. But my other concern is if we go and add something in, I personally don't want to see it in my administration budget or my general government budget. I want it on its separate warrant article, because I don't want my entire department's budget to fail because somebody or a portion of the population doesn't support that decision. I'd rather just see what they feel as a standalone. What is it? Because that way, if people genuinely support the budget but don't support that, I just don't want to see us have to go to a special town meeting and re-vote on it and go through that whole process. So those are my two concerns. If we do something like this, I'd like to really this is what it is. You can physically hand somebody, this is, there's some ambiguity to any job, but this is what's going to be expected. Because how do you rate something when you don't really know exactly what they're supposed to do? I mean, we have an idea, we have a good vision, but I'd really like to have it more hashed out.
My question to you is, would it be a little, not, or a lot beneficial for you to have somebody take care of basic data input, accounting input.
I mean, I don't think it's a secret. I've said that since I started,
Because
that,
you're saying like 20 hours a week you spend on this.
yeah, 20 to 30, depending on the week. If it's the end of the quarter, it's even more than that. So I think I've been pretty vocal about that. And, you know, my original plans were, which I have shared, I have passed off a lot of the data entry stuff to Alyssa, and now Alyssa's training Rachel, and, you know, it's stuff that they are currently doing in addition to the other stuff that they do. But one of the biggest struggles, and I don't know how, like, I multitask more in this job than I've ever multitasked in any job I've ever had in my life. But to take like our data entry for our invoices, like I make mistakes and I sit in my office. I don't, people can only see me by appointment now, like, and I make mistakes. So if you put that on somebody who's currently hopping up from their desk to go help a customer register 6 vehicles and pay their taxes, then come back and where did I leave off? Now we're entering invoices twice, and we're, you know, so I think the biggest thing that this town could benefit from, and I could benefit from, and the office could benefit from, is somebody who just does the bookkeeping. I'm not saying right now is the answer for that, but I think that would allow me to focus more energy on grant writing, researching, emergency management stuff. You know, I just happened to get lucky today. I pulled this email up that came from Oxford County EMA today, with all the changes going on in the federal government and the restructuring of FEMA. Oxford County EMA is actually encouraging towns to at least discuss the possibility of creating a local fund for disaster response and recovery, because there's been a numerous number of extreme weather events that in the past have been declared as as a presidential disaster, and they're not. So these towns are having to fund these repairs, and they're not getting any federal funds for it. There's no support. So stuff like this is, you know, I'd be able to pay more attention to this stuff. You know, I get a lot of emails from, I don't know if you get them, but I get a lot of emails from them, and I probably read 10%.
So, I mean, I'm hearing, and you're not an hourly employee, but I would hope that on the average week, you don't work more than 50 hours a week.
No, you guys yelled at me the last time I did that.
But if you're saying 20 to 30 hours a week, inputting information into a computer that doesn't take, this isn't synthesis, this isn't how does this help or hurt the town, this is just putting that information in. That means you're spending at least half your time, if not more than half the time, doing that. And I don't think that serves the town well, all of your skills and capability. And maybe if we move that, then you're doing the grant writing. And maybe we just look at this part-time and we can kick this down the road for a year. But he's spending 20 to 30 hours a week doing basic bookkeeping. Is that what we want? So maybe that's the position.
And I think it's fair to say too, I pulled out the old governance analysis that Brad Plan did in 2017. And one of the biggest items was the workload on the town manager at the time. And part of it was the treasurer, town manager dual role thing. Because at times Cindy was the town manager, but she was also the treasurer, and she's trying to do everything else that she was tasked with. And that was one of the biggest things in 2017 that was identified. And here we are 10 years later in the same.
Still the same thing.
So if anything came out of that, it was, and I know there's two sets of eyes, well, a lot of sets of eyes, but two sets of eyes on what I do. Like I put it in the computer, I review it, I bring it to you, you look at it, and then we sign off on it. In the future, if there were somebody that was focused on that bookkeeping, those inputs go in, I'm reviewing it. Right now, the way it works is invoices come in. I have to review them. I have to review all the invoices anyways. So I'm documenting what account number it's going into, and then I'm handing it to somebody else to put into the computer. And then I have to review it again to make sure that it went into the right one, which I'm already doing what I would need to do. But, you know, I feel like if somebody that was their role. That's just I could review that stuff quickly and be done with it, and we could move on to 4 to 6 hours a week or project management stuff, monitoring the grant progress, keeping, doing the things that a town manager is supposed to do. I just don't think, I think that would be the least complicated thing to do. I just don't know as if right now is the time to do it. There's no good time in my mind because, I don't want to add anything to the budget that I don't absolutely have to have. And, on one hand, I can sit here and say I've done this for almost 4 years now. Do I want to do it for another 4 years like this? No, I don't. But we're just so close to where, I don't know.
Well, I mean, a bookkeeper job description sounds a lot more ambiguous than the monster position that we started this conversation with. So that is another thing that I would be open to, is hiring out or contracting a bookkeeper in a part-time capacity so that they're spending, 20 hours a week on that, and then you are spending 10 on that sort of thing where you need to, so that you can take on with female response.
There's a lot of meetings and stuff, that would be beneficial to the town, not just for me, but for the town if I participated in.
Yeah.
And right now I'm running the bare minimum. I go to AvCog, MMA once a year. Like that's gist of it. I'm skipping out on Western Maine managers meetings, which is really a collective of the leaders from towns around us getting together and talking about ideas and things that, all towns are struggling with. I don't make it. And it's not because I don't want to, I physically can't do it. And I don't know if that's a disservice to the town because, I find out at the last minute about things that are changing that, I have to change on a whim. Whereas if I kind of had a heads up on it and could really gather that information for the community, I feel like it would benefit us a lot better.
You seem to almost be in this constant state of triage. With things just, everything getting thrown at you, and how do I fix this? How do I make this work? How do we? And again, I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I would like to see you be able to do more of your job.
I feel like what I'm hearing and wanting out of this conversation is part-time bookkeeper, separate warrant article drawn from the fund balance. And people can vote yes or vote no. And we can try to educate them as best we can leading up to the vote. I agree. There are training opportunities you're missing out on. There are just general, I don't even want to call it networking opportunities, just like shared local knowledge opportunities that you miss out on.
We just don't have the resources locally, so you got to kind of lean on that stuff.
Right.
And I just feel like I'm doing a disservice on that because I'm so committed to being at my desk, making sure that I'm trying to keep all this stuff up. And I know I've talked to Abby too. Like I said, I genuinely, I look at the budget from a wants and a needs standpoint. This kind of fits both, but I presented a budget that I feel comfortable with, and I feel like I've done that. This is probably my 4th budget that I've done myself. And then the ones I had experience with as a budget committee member and as a select board member before that. I hear from residents every day. Facebook, at home, at Tilton's, you do too. And the one common denominator is they're all saying I'm getting taxed out of my house. So I'm trying to think like them because I pay taxes too. And it's like anything we add to this budget hurts all of us as well.
But if you had 20 more hours a week to focus on saving this town money, getting the best deal possible for things, making this town money,
That's the conundrum I'm in.
I would say that you could generate more than $30,000 a year if you had 20 extra hours a week.
And you're probably not wrong.
Or 30,000. So
I mean, in this group, we can have this conversation and I know, and I agree with you. But when it comes time for these public hearings and people being in that ballot box, they're gonna see numbers, they're gonna see, if they see an increase at all, they're just gonna go down the line, no, 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 no.
What
And
was
it's-
the, seeing that it's a net negative, what's the math, the net negative? How much?
Overall,
It's like
No, I mean,
just under
For
5.
the town office?
you're talking between general administration and the general administration revenue.
I just think if we were to ask taxpayers, do you want our town manager spending 20 to 30 hours a week of his job doing data entry?
Mhm.
I think most of them would think it's his job anyway.
That's
And
unfortunate.
it's not.
I know, but I know, I looked up your position and what your responsibility, I'm just saying, I would assume, most people would assume
Mhm.
his job
That's
is to put invoices in. And so everybody, like, that's what they would assume. So if that's what you think, people are gonna go to the ballot box, and be like, oh, Cameron wants somebody to put that in for him. That's his job. No.
Well,
I
that's
just think
their
that's-
decision, and what I hear from that is that it's an education opportunity and not an absolute no.
Because on top of this, emergency management director is not his job.
No.
But he has to do it because nobody else will. Road commissioner is not his job, but he has to do it because nobody else will. And so when is he, right, it just comes to an education piece, and people want to say, no,
I will say that those positions, I looked for them, and because Cameron is them, I can look for them to apply to be them.
If you look at the MMA
Okay.
salary survey, there's a lot of, you get these small towns. And town clerk does it all, and then you find out those are the towns that are 5 years behind on their audits, not in compliance with elections, they're not, and when I came here, and I mean, we had been through 2 years of just absolute chaos. It took like 2 years just to make sure we were back in compliance with everything, making sure that, I mean, I think it was 2 years before I realized we had submitted a solid waste report for like 4 years. Just little things like that. So now it's like,
not we, you, we.
when I say we, I mean the town.
I mean, just think of it this way. If you are usually in the office for 50 hours a week, and you were usually spending 20 to 30, so we'll average 25 hours a week. We're spending half of your salary, which is $45,000, on you doing bookkeeping. Or we can hire a $30,000 bookkeeper, and you can go do actual town manager duties. And we can do the trial run where we pull it from the fund balance so that it's not of a tax impact, and we can educate voters on how that is the case.
But what was the difference? That negative?
It was 55,000.
It's so that was it's 31,358. So the
Even
budget's
if you
negative.
add this position in there.
Yeah.
It's still a net negative. You're not asking for any more money
not overall.
overall.
We gotta look overall. We gotta look at overall for the taxpayer, period. Because there's other areas that have gone up. So we can't just look at one spot and say, well, that's net negative, we're good with that. We can't do that. As far as taxpayers go, we have to look at the overall budget. Bob, I'm gonna make a suggestion. We could sit here all night and talk about this one item, we're not gonna get through the budget. We're gonna talk about a dead horse here. Either if you wanna put something in for a warrant article, yeah, that's up to the select board to do.
Mhm.
Yep.
If that's what you wanna do. I think we're talking in circles at this point.
Yeah.
And then you decide if you want to do that, then how do we do that at that point? Do we, as a budget committee, tell you whether we agree with it or not? Support it or not? Is that what?
Yeah, here, believe it or not.
Because you've already made your recommendation on the administration. So I mean, unless there's a change that,
Right, but I mean, as far as a separate,
right, you would vote on it because it's a financial thing.
Comfortably, can we take this from the fund balance?
I'm already, my proposal is to do the same fund balance appropriation as last year, and the year before, which was 300,000. So, I mean, can we comfortably and stay in compliance with our policy? Yes. But again, I go back to what Oxford County EMA just said, you know, that fund balance might be our disaster recovery fund if something happens. I mean, we've got 20,000 in our emergency contingency plus some interest for emergency contingency. If we get another storm like we had in December, and we've got, I mean, the rebuilding of Faunce Road was 10 grand all in itself. Like, I don't like to continue to keep pulling from fund balance. So the town policy says we have to have 60 days. The auditors say, they suggest 90 to 120. You know, if we start picking away and get back to what, I think we need to revise our town policy, but I think we're getting closer to where we say we should be versus where the auditors should be.
But if we look realistically at the way this works, if the town manager isn't on board with this and the budget committee is not, it won't go through. So,
But it is worth looking at for the next year. Yes. You just gotta walk a lot for another year.
try to do.
Maybe get.
I mean, I am my own worst enemy. You guys know that, but I also.
Okay.
I hate seeing my mortgage go up every freaking year. And that's a me reality, but I know it's an everybody reality.
So unless someone's willing to make a motion, then we'll move.
Yeah, so for time, I would recommend, unless you want to go all the way through it and then go back line by line and look at each department and vote on each department.
I think there may be some departments that I believe we've all read this and gone through this. And so unless people have a specific question about something, there may be little chunks of this that we just agree that it stands as is.
I would say it's, so when I do the warrant, I have the amount that you guys are actually recommending. So like,
If nobody has anything for public safety, just go to the end of public safety.
no, I'm still back on general government for my purposes. For my purposes and what I need to do to make sure I have it ready for you so that you can approve it before April 12th is if there's no other things that need to be adjusted in general administration, I would ask that somebody from the board make a motion that the select board recommend raising and appropriating whatever that amount is.
The amount.
And if that's the amount that's in the committee column, it's in your workbook and says the exact amount. Because I'm filling this out for you as you guys go along, so I know what the heck I'm doing.
All right. We're doing general government.
Yes.
I will make the motion that the select board recommend raising and appropriating $572,807 for the purpose of general government for the year 2026 to 2027.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Public safety.
All right. So the big changes in public safety, I'll start fire department's the first department in the list, isn't it? Public safety fire. All right, so the budget committee, Adam came in and spoke to the budget committee. I had made a proposed budget because I hadn't heard from Adam, and then he had sent it to me and it was hung up in his inbox, whatever. What I had envisioned for what our firefighters should get paid versus what the chief is asking for were two different things, but at the end of the day, they came down to basically the same amount of money is what he came in, his request was a little lower than mine. Mine was a little bit higher, but we did the math. My number was more accurate, even considering what he was looking for. So I have been trying to line up as best I can fire and rescue salaries for, what they are. And I had originally intended to eliminate stipends. The chief does not want that. I don't know. I had set a $26 an hour rate for the chief, which is what our rescue chief is paid. They'd be hand in hand, same salary. He's more looking at $23 an hour, which is what he's currently at with the $4,000 stipend. Last year I had moved him up to 23, and then I had phased out the stipend. I originally was going to phase it out completely, and then I did a stepped phase out. So this year it was $1,000 stipend, and then I was going to increase the wage to get him up to where he was. And the same thing went for the officers. But after the discussion that he had with the budget committee, if that's what he wants and he can do it for the budget that's there and his people want to do it that way, then that's what he proposed. So either way, my budget request is a slight increase, and that was meant for the adjustments. Based off what the chief said, I've gone back and revised the hourly pay, which is a reduction on some because of the stipends. Obviously, that affects FICA, Medicare, and your main paid family medical leave. He did have an increase in turnout, and that was one of the questions that Jake on the budget committee had brought up, because I had talked about turnout gear expiring as a shelf life. So we try to rotate and buy new stuff each year. Obviously, those prices have gone up. I had originally put in a $12,000 request. Adam put in 13.5. I think that's fair. I've seen the invoices, and I agree with what he came up with there. Communications equipment, he did increase by $500. Makes sense. We do have another piece of equipment, and it just communication stuff's going up as well. So I'm fine with that. The other increase he had, I increased fire vehicle maintenance to 40,000. That should be a no-brainer. We get older trucks. And then the big thing was under capital expenses. So last year we had appropriated $10,000 to purchase 2 air packs for truck 2. We've since purchased those. I was gonna back this line out, but the Cascade system that we have, we've got one option: send it out for $8,500 and then pay $8,500 to have it shipped back. They may be able to fix it, they may not. They don't make parts for it anymore. It's old. So the fire department would like to purchase a new Cascade system. So I left the $10,000 in there, and then with what they have in there, capital improvement reserve would fund the remainder of it. So they'd be able to buy a new Cascade system to replace that one. He's priced them out. They're right around $35,000 to $40,000. They've got the money in their reserve, but this would allow us not to deplete the reserve to the point where we don't have funding set aside for the trucks if something happens. So all in, the fire department budget as proposed is $191,700. This year's was $178,820. So it's what, roughly a $12,000 increase, mostly in wage adjustments and turnout, small little item. That's fire.
Did you have a grant they're trying to get for the Cascade system to help out without it?
Yeah.
That's just
I forgot about that.
information.
So if that happens, we'll have the $10,000, and then if it's a match, they can do that. If it's not a match, then we could reallocate that 10,000 to go to the reserve.
So with all of these adjustments, is this the number? 850, 698 that you
I have it here.
this is still, yeah, I can't remember what you're proposing.
Well, we got to finish going through public safety. That was only one department. or sorry, that was only one division of the department. So then we move on to rescue. The big changes there's no changes to wage scales. But last year when I wrote the budget and I looked at the number of hours, did the math, came up with what I had for budget line, and then this year when I was writing the budget, realized, hey, I didn't account for the 10 holidays that we have. And rescue is not one of those departments that we shut down on President's Day. So I had to recalculate that double pay. So that line went up without me actually having to change anything. So that's why there's an increase in the wages for rescue. It still sticks with one on-call shift a week. So, or not one one on-call shift per week, which is 12 hours where we have a provider on and we tone out for a driver, or we have a provider on that's working on call. So it's still not technically 24/7 with full staff. I didn't make an adjustment to that. What else we got in here? For the sake of trying to clean up the budget document, you'll notice there's now 3 lines for rescue wages. There's holiday worked, there's on-call, and then there's your regular rescue wages. I did that because I had everything lumped into one and it was just easier to look at. So that's why you see those 2 other accounts. Obviously that change affects FICA, Medicare, PFML. I did increase office supply line by $1,000. Everything's still going up, but we did reduce medical supplies by 5,000. So that $1,000 increase didn't really affect anything. I adjusted down gas and diesel because I now have several years worth of data to look at how much gas and diesel they're using and feel like we were over budgeting for it. So I put it where it should be. Rescue billing. For the past couple of years, when we do our rescue billing total, I'm calculating it off of our projected revenue, and that's not correct because we have contract revenue, then we have billing revenue. So this is actually based off of what I'm projecting for billing revenue. The billing revenue that I'm projecting is 189,500. We pay 5.5% of that. So that's why you see a decrease in that number as well. I reduced ALS because we haven't had as high of an increase in ALS costs as we had originally assumed last year when we were kind of in the unknown. Fortunately, Maine Health hasn't started billing us yet. So I shaved that down a little bit and the chief agreed. Yeah, everything else is basically the same. I reduced their MiFi costs because now that we've paid off the devices, there's a reduction in that cost. So all total for rescue, we're looking at 512,137. The current year is 495,562. So we're only up about $16,000 and some change in rescue. But when we get to the revenues, I did increase revenue projections for next year. Part of that's contract increases that we negotiated last year for Sumner. So I believe rescue is like a net couple $1,000. It wasn't like it's basically a flat budget. Animal welfare, all this data comes from these numbers come from Brendan, and he's basing it off the number of calls, you know, how he is with his data analytics and how many hours he spends in Buckfield versus other towns. So he did ask for an increase in his monthly stipend from 500 to 750, and that's just based on the number of hours a month he spends in Buckfield. So that's why you see 9,000 as opposed to 6,000. However, he did have some decreases. He had some slight increases. His office supplies went down. His uniform and safety went up a little bit. He's got a cloud subscription for his body cam, which benefits all of us because if something happens and he's accused of doing something, we have it all on video. We share in that subscription with the other towns that he covers, so we don't pay for 100% of any of that. And then mileage got reduced because his mileage in Buckfield is not as high as he had projected for last year. So all in for animal control, we're up about $3,000, but if you look at the stipend, that's where it is. Street lights, I cut by 500 because we haven't hit 5,500 in a couple of years. Switched over to LEDs, reduced that by 500. Hydrants can't do anything about 62,720. If they do a rate increase in the future, that's going to go up. Emergency management stays this, oh, sorry, it's up $5 because I cleaned up the numbers and made them even numbers. Public safety facility is the one where people may look at and get a little confused. So as you all know, the town voted to accept Jim Jordan's house. And with that, there's obviously, in order to even utilize it for anything to generate any sort of revenue to benefit rescue, it needs some work. The electrical is sketchy. Gonna need electrical work, the interior needs some work. But all that funding for it is coming out of the funding that's gonna come to us as a trust fund, and the interest will help to pay for that. So if you look at this budget, you'll see increases in like building. We went from 17.5 to 41,475, and then electricity and stuff went up. All of those increases are offset to the dollar with interest revenue coming in. So even though it looks like a massive increase here, it's a net zero at the end of the day.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna skip over to the revenues for public safety real quick, which is on page 43. Fire is up $1,000 because that's the contract they have with Hartford. It goes up $1,000 a year on that one. For rescue, I'm increasing the projection from 225 to 235. I told you I'm estimating 189,500 in billing revenue. And then our Hartford and Sumner contracts are going up from 26,680 this year to 39,572. So basically I'm projecting the same rescue billing revenue this year as what I believe we're coming up with this year, or what we're going to get this year, but increasing the revenue by the contract amount. And then there on the third line, 105,355, you see we went from 0 to 29,750, which is what I project for the trust fund interest. Your turn. I did my part.
Back to the final number.
Oh, yes, you did ask that question.
$850,600, still your proposal.
That was my original proposal. Before we discussed the increase to turnout gear and
What's your proposal now?
I agree with what
So 857,698.
transparency. I tried not to alter my numbers from when I originally proposed it to after. So that's why you may see a discrepancy.
I'll make a motion that the select board recommend raising and appropriating $857,698 for public safety operating expenses for the fiscal year 2026, 2027.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
We don't vote on
I know.
it.
The nod.
There's really nothing to hit on Parks and Recreation, or on Parks and Rec. The budget's basically flat. I think there's a $50 difference.
Sorry. Yes.
I'll make a motion that select board recommend raising and appropriating $35,510 for Parks and Recreation for the 2026-2027 fiscal year.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Community budget.
I just want to skim over it real quick. No, the budget, so general assistance, social services, organizations and events, community church, or sorry, Old Church. They're all exactly the same. The library, there's just adjustments for COLA increases. So it is, this year's 74,536. This year's 76,210. The only difference is that's going to sway this is really in revenues. Revenues are down because a lot of the library's revenue is in trust funds. It's not significant, but you'll see a decrease in their revenues from this year by about $2,000. That's kind of out of our control, unless interest rates go up.
I'll make a motion that the select board recommend raising and appropriating $76,210 for community expenses in the 2026-2027 fiscal year.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Debt service is down a little over 21,000. We paid off the cat excavator this current fiscal year, and we didn't ask for any new debt service items, so.
Okay.
Make a motion that the select board recommend raising and appropriating $114,640 for debt service for the 2026-2027 fiscal year.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
So this is another one of those ones where you're gonna say, do you still favor the first amount? That proposed by the town manager amount is before we got our bids for the sand. So it's there because it was there originally, but we'll hit on the changes with Public Works. So, in the Public Works Department, I've been budgeted for 4 employees for the entire time I've been here. And in the entire time I've been here, I've had 4 employees for probably a tenth of that time. Just can't keep them in the role, and it's just, so what I did in the budget is I proposed eliminating one of the full-time positions. We've got a lot of part-timers that do our mow our lawns and help with snow removal and everything else. I've got on-call guys I can call to help plow with. So I did remove one full-time employee, but I increased part-time wages a little bit. So we're saving on basically benefits and some of the actual wages. Does it suck? Yeah, but I don't feel like speaking to the foreman, I don't think it's necessary. With that said, after removing that, we found out that winter sand has gone up quite a bit, and we discussed the hauling versus the picking it up, the wear and tear on our trucks. What I had originally proposed for a maintenance budget on our trucks was 90,000. The budget committee had discussed whether or not that was enough with the trucks that we have. I tend to agree with them, especially since I have one truck that's going in for repair that probably gonna cost me $5 or $6 grand. And I still have another truck with a bad rear end, but, so the budget committee had recommended $10,000 more to that for 100,000 in the maintenance line. As far as I'm concerned, barring asking for the purchase of a new truck, we have to fix the ones we have. That was the other reason why I eliminated or proposed eliminating one of the positions. We only have 3 plow trucks aside from the 1 ton. So you're paying a Class B driver to drive a pickup truck and plow roads with it. So we added 10,000 to that. I had forgotten to put $5,000 in for a tarp to cover the winter sand. So they caught that on me. Then we got the bids on the sand, and I budgeted for $17 a yard hauled. Because for one, if we're getting rid of a position, we might as well have it hauled in, saves the wear and tear on the trucks. And then, so you see a spike in the winter sand from 38 to 54,000 roughly. So that was the increase there. But overall, what we ended up with what the budget committee recommended was $1,172,205. And then last year's budget was higher than that. I just don't have it in front of me because I have to keep going back and forth. Last year's was 1,193,407. So we're looking at about $20,000 savings despite the increase in sand and paying to have it hauled to us because of the elimination of that position.
Do you feel confident that this meets the needs of the town for the next year?
Can only do so much, right? Is what we got. If I can't even keep 3 trucks on the road, then what's the point of having 4 guys?
No, I'm not questioning, I just want to confirm.
Yes, I've talked to Preston. I believe this is what we need. I've got all the bases covered.
I'd like to make a motion that the select board recommend raising and appropriating $1,172,205 for public works for the 2026, 2027 fiscal year.
I'll second. Further discussion?
Is our foreman, do we budget for training opportunities for him? Whether or not he's actually interested? Is he ever taking up training opportunities?
Most of the training opportunities that we have are cost nothing. So he does, he's done trenching trainings, he's done, the heck is it? If I have anybody doing traffic control, they do the work zone safety training. I don't know the specific parts of it. And then Safety Works does a ton of other, OSHA trainings and stuff like that are no cost that I sign him up for. Annually, I send them up to Skowhegan for the, whatever it's called, that little, they call it the rodeo or whatever, but there's a lot of, you know what I'm talking about. The guys get to go out, they get to have a day to kind of relax, but they also, get to get to talk to different people, which is actually what got us to the point where we were able to do the shoulder work on our roads.
Yeah.
Because if I included that in on those jobs, our paving prices would go up significantly just to have them do that additional work. But we're now set up. The guys know how to do the shoulders. They're pretty efficient at it. And that ended up coming out of one of their visits up there. Saw a piece of equipment. They came back, they built one, then we ordered one once we knew it worked. So, we do take advantage of training opportunities. I also use MMA's site for their BLS training, and they do have some excavation. A lot of the forklift training I can get done through MMA, and then I'm a certified trainer, so I can actually do the test and sign off on that. But I'm always looking for opportunities for them to do it. Fortunately, with Public Works, there's a lot of free opportunities, so I don't really have to budget anything for it.
Good to hear. And then my second question would be, because we don't really know what we're looking at as far as what was discussed at the solid waste committee, do you feel like we did have a discussion about how perhaps to make such a position as we discussed more enticing, having them spend some time at Public Works, so it's a more substantial job, maybe not necessarily full-time, but maybe like one extra possible shift at Public Works. I don't know if we'd be looking at that for the next fiscal year, but that was just something I wanted to raise to someone who understands it a little bit.
I did, so I did increase the part-time line. Let's see. This is a lot easier by paper and not on a tablet. I'm sorry.
Good.
So if you look at my laborer line, I had budgeted 24,600
Yeah.
this year, and now I'm up to 39. So I don't necessarily have it tied to a certain number of hours for each individual. It's based off of how many hours per week that I could potentially use them for. So I would say that if that was something that could be added onto that, it would be included in there.
Those are all my questions.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? I'll wait.
I feel like 3 of you have already heard this 6 times. You all were here when Glenn talked about the tonnage.
Yep.
And I think that at solid waste meeting, I said $80 a ton, and it's $88 a ton, right? No.
Yeah, I think me and Bob or me and Peter had to look at each other. Yeah.
And I actually think I had it written in here the right way.
Yeah.
I just said it the wrong way.
That's important.
So, last year we saw increases. We we were anticipating 47, and then at a meeting after everything was all approved and drafted up, they said, oh, we're jumping up to 54. So we saw that increase. Solid Waste Committee had talked that we had implemented fees on certain items that we were getting billed extra for. It's been semi-successful. I mean, we have generated revenue from it. But one of my biggest concerns with the transfer station is our aging employees.
Mhm.
I don't know how much longer they're all going to be around or how much longer they're willing to do this, but I'll tell you what, find me someone even my age that will work at the transfer station 2 days a week and do it for $16.39 an hour.
Yep.
It's not happening. Especially in the winter time. So with that said, in my budget, it's not a huge increase, but it's a little bit better. I had proposed a wage cap up to $20 an hour in case one of them leaves and I need to hire somebody, because I did post a job for a very short period of time and the depth of applicants was not really there. So I think you need to be aware, planning for what's going to happen if one of them leaves. So there is an increase to the wage line there. The disposal costs is what it is. We're jumping from $54 a ton for regular household trash to $88 a ton. That's huge. It's almost doubling overnight. So, they increase it every year by $1. Been doing that since, it was a long time they didn't do any increases. Then they started doing increases and it was $1 a year. It's been $1 a year for a couple of years and they jumped up to 54 because that wasn't going to be enough.
Just get caught up with us.
Yeah.
Or caught up with them.
Had Main Waste planned this over time, it wouldn't be as noticeable because we would have seen slight increases over time. But now it's time to pay the piper and we're getting hit all at once. So, we're going from the recycling and disposal line of 226,000 and we're jumping right up to 288,000. It's not a small amount of money, but the hope is that by doing this, they won't have to give us another special assessment like they did a few months ago, where we got a bill for $29,000 and we were told pay it. So hopefully in doing this, we won't see any more of those. Doesn't guarantee it, but hopefully it'll get Main Waste back to a position where they don't have to do that. And then I estimated a slight increase in OBW because it's been going up gradually. But so all said and done, I did increase the insurance a little bit because obviously I proposed 10% for the town, and our insurance at transfer station is through the town, and I allocate that share to the transfer station, so Sumner helps us in that cost. So there's 10% built into that too, but we're looking at an increase from 308 to 378. Aside from not taking my recommendation on wages, I don't see anywhere you can save there right now in the way we're operating.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick mention, sorry, you can go ahead. Okay, that we had a solid waste committee meeting last week. It would have been March 10th of 2026. So for anyone listening back to this, if you go in the minute section of our website and you find that solid waste committee meeting, there should be a document in there where I've outlined some ways that we can help mitigate these costs. It won't be happening in the next fiscal year, so I won't get too deep into it now, but the short of it is that the Maine legislature in 2021 passed an extended producer responsibility law, which would make it so that large corporations who produce massive amounts of waste, which has led to the increase in waste charges that we have in the modern era, are forced to pay into a pool that municipalities like ours can access. So we are eligible to enroll in that program at the end of this year, and then it would begin paying out sometime in 2027. I want to say late 2027. Yeah, October 2027. So again, this might not be a conversation that we're having in the budget talks until we're looking at the 2028 to 29 budget. But it is an avenue of cost savings where they will help pay for the removal of recyclables, and they'll also help pay for the equipment or that. So we'll hopefully be able to increase our incomes that way.
we're just gonna need community buy-in on it, because you have to do a certain amount of recycling in order to qualify for it, so. Stuff that people are currently throwing out, we're gonna have to do some educational stuff and make them aware that, hey, you know, that yogurt container you're throwing out, you need to start putting them in a recycle bin, because if we don't, it could cost us money.
For sure. And I've noticed something that the Norway solid waste station does is they make everyone use clear trash bags so that the attendant can fish out the trash bags that have recyclables in it, which sounds like a pain in the ass, but it's going to be the most efficient way for people to learn not to do that sort of thing. If we were to look at implementing that program, that's not to say we will implement that program, but that is beyond just some basic education avenues. That might be something we have to look at so that we can make this program feasible for us, because it's not just going to save us money, it's going to make us money. And where we all don't want our taxes going up, this is going to be a really important avenue that we can cost save, but it's going to have a learning curve. It's going to take practice. But yeah, it's very important, especially with this cost spike. That's the end of my spiel. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that the select board recommend raising and appropriating $378,700 for solid waste operating expenses for the 2027-2028 fiscal year.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Local revenues.
So we've hit on some of them, and I gave you guys a sheet that has everything outlined year over year. So looking at revenue projections for local this year, this current fiscal year, we proposed 857,070. The new one for 26-27 is 981,734. So you see these increases in local revenues, mainly driven by excise tax and a couple of other areas. But basically we're looking at $124,000 increase in local revenues, which is about a 14.5% increase for revenues. So as you know, for me from the past, I like to trend expenses, so budget increases tied to revenue increases, to try and minimize any impact on the tax code. And then, yeah, I guess I put local and state in two different lines, so that's my gist on that.
I'll make a motion that the select board recommend accepting and appropriating local revenues in the amount of $981,734 to reduce the 2026-2027 expense budget for the.
You already said it.
It's not there. It's not 2026, 2027, that is it?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nailed it.
I'll second that. Yeah.
It's because I didn't put it in the other ones.
But what's the upcoming? We're talking about the 2027. Oh no, sorry, never mind.
Yeah, you got it.
She tried to fast forward time.
So, I do want to say, I think on the previous one, she said 27, 28.
Did I?
Oh,
I didn't think so.
So-
I don't think I've heard you say 27, 28. I think you've been okay.
talking about on the solid waste one.
So let's go through this and then I can publicly state.
I mean, you guys, so this is, your intent was 26, 27, correct? Okay. This is your vote on the numbers, so I know it's put in the warrant. I'm gonna bring you the warrant, and then you're gonna vote on the warrant itself, so
No.
I think you're good. You don't have to repeat that.
You can say the right year then.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Any further discussion on that one?
Who was the second?
Me.
Think somebody.
Favor?
And along those lines, I will, with the correct year, make a motion that the select board recommend accepting and appropriating state revenue in the amount of $595,550 to reduce the 2026, 2027 expense budget.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Unbalanced.
I already hit on it.
Yep.
My recommendation's the same as prior year. And the budget committee agreed.
So I will make a motion that the select board recommend authorizing the select board to appropriate up to $300,000 to reduce to 2026, 2027 expense budget.
I'll second that. Further discussion? All those in favor?
There's one miscellaneous item, which we've done in the past, and I anticipate that rescue is going to hit their projected revenue, so there will be excess revenue above what we proposed. As you all know, we've got the remount going on. We've got to come up with $60,000 to $70,000 in the next year and a half to pay for that. So I'm recommending that anything above and beyond that 225 go into that capital asset reserve to fund that project.
So I will make a motion that the select board recommend authorizing the town treasurer upon approval of the select board to apply the revenue received in excess of the 2025, 2026 proposed rescue department revenue of $225,000 to the rescue department capital asset reserve account to fund the remount of an ambulance.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Those in favor?
At what time do we need to?
Oh, yes, I'll make a motion. We need to close of business.
I'll second.
We're in the clear. Further discussion of the budget.
I think that covers everything. I mean, we've had the changes that came up. I think at this point, we're through all of that. I don't anticipate any other emergency items that are gonna come up before you guys have to approve this. So what I'll do is I'll pretty much got it drafted up now, but I'll get the draft warrant written up for the next meeting. And then, I believe the planning board after their meeting is gonna have two new ordinances, if they approve them, two new ordinances and an amendment to an existing ordinance that will require their own warrant article. But I should have those by next meeting, right? Sorry not to put you on the spot, but I know you.
We're meeting next Tuesday night and we should have a quorum and should be able to go through them.
So basically I'll have that all for you next week, or next meeting, which is now 3 weeks away, right? Because we're a 5-month, the 7th. I'll have that for you on the 7th. And then they'll be able to get that approved before the 10th, which is when I asked. And reminder, nomination papers are due the 10th at 4 o'clock as well.
We add to the end of our, end of this for the upcoming meetings, the RSU 10 has a budget meeting coming up next Monday here in Buckfield. So if we could add that to our future meeting section on these minutes and also make a post.
I'm gonna put the RSU school board's meeting calendar up on our Facebook page too, because that has all those dates lined out.
Mhm.
And they still haven't made the decision on where the meeting's gonna be at. So I guess
The big one?
there's still a chance that the annual budget meeting would be in Buckfield, but
Right, but they'll be having budget talks next
Yeah.
week too, and the sooner we express our issues with it, the better.
anybody that cares to know, they did, the superintendent proposed a budget at their last meeting on Monday. The
Mhm.
last Monday.
Yep.
And her proposed budget it was roughly a 3% increase.
Mhm.
The budget, as I understand it, was described as a budget that had already had like $1.5 million cut from it. And they're looking at additional cuts, but, it's not really set in stone. But as of right now, like if the budget that she proposed last meeting were to go through, we'd be looking at like a $78,000 increase, which is slightly less than what I had originally proposed.
Mhm.
But I'm not gonna, I did on your sheet, I said subject to change because it could change by next meeting. I don't know.
Yep.
But I'm trying to use, for our purposes, I'm trying to plug in numbers as I see them
Mhm.
so that I'm kind of on top of it and I can share with people what I'm looking at. If that budget were to go through, this budget were to pass exactly as you just voted on it, I anticipate a slight decrease in the mill rate, but that's just an estimate. And again, you don't know what's going to come out of the school. So
Remind me this past year's mill rate.
1485.
Thank you.
My estimates, if everything like this was to be done, would be somewhere in the ballpark of 1460, 1465. Yeah.
Seeing now that the budget part of this meeting is done, I'm gonna call the budget committee meeting closed, adjourned at
8:32.
8:32.
All in favor?
Oh,
Yeah.
I think you were the most, he was the second.
yes. That way,
We can move ahead. All right.
Thank you both.
We're gonna,
thank you.
we have a comment section later that we're going here, but mind if I jump up to approval of the minutes for the February 24th, 2026 budget committee? Oh, you did. Other business, select board budget committee comment. Thank you very much for coming. Yeah,
Thanks for having, I think it was a good meeting.
yeah, I like this format. I wonder if in the future this is the way to go. It's nice to be,
Yeah.
rather than just get
Well,
paper.
you got to hear what our thought process was as we approved the budget. So we went through it. Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the select board? Okay. Public comment? Nope. Nope. All right.
I really hope I didn't miss people that were trying to get in because I was too busy talking.
We are,
On the Facebooks.
we're not gonna do the executive session. I'm not prepared. I'm sorry. Yeah, again.
Table that. Yeah.
Next meeting,
Do we need a formal motion on that? Or do we think we're all right?
if you guys aren't ready for it, it's
All right.
We put it on next again.
yeah.
Thank you.
Does that mean I have to send my sheet again?
No, okay. Further comments would be appreciated.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, yes.
so we posted it on the town Facebook page. There's flyers at Sumner. We've posted it on Hartford's page, whatever, that the withdrawal survey is online. The links are on our Facebook, which can be accessed through our Facebook, but I would encourage anybody, whether you're for or against it, to provide your input. I know one of the biggest things is some people feel like they're not being heard or the committee might not be taking everybody's input and listening to it. And this was kind of the hope that everybody could provide their input. It is anonymous. I know Google asks you to log in. That's solely so that, I can't go on there and fill it up 6 times. We don't get that information. We can't see that information. The only way you would share any of that information is if you wanted to include your email at the end for updates. I think for the committee, it's good for them to see, because then they can also share that with their education consultant as she's trying to look at what a potential new school budget would look like, or vice versa. And one of the other things I want to point out is the people who serve on that committee are dictated by statute. It's not like you guys just picked 4 random people and stuck them on there. And I think, in my own personal opinion, I think the statute is designed to set it up to have people that don't have a lot of experience with education on there. So just be cognizant of that. I know these individuals have picked this up as another task of their busy lives to do, and there's no intent to look like they're trying to make assumptions or whatever. Doing the best of what they have. They've hired professionals that have experience in this, and really they're going to be doing the bulk of what they need and sharing that their knowledge with them. So
If I,
It's like you're saying it's okay to be critical, but be kind.
yes, that's kind of what I was getting at.
if
I've seen a lot of input on social media that suggests that people aren't qualified, and I think I speak for all 12 of the people that are on that committee. It's an overwhelming, daunting task. And when statute dictates who needs to be there, there's not much that you or them or anybody else can do about it. And I think, I mean, Azalea's been there. I think the consultant that they hired and the attorney that has the experience with this stuff, both are more than qualified for this process.
Yes, I was very impressed hearing from I missed the meeting with the lawyer, but I was very impressed by the education consultant. I know you're not on the committee, but have you heard of any intent to mail the survey?
So we have paper surveys here. And people can pick them up. The only concern I have with that, so with the survey, the way it's set up now, you know how Google surveys work. Like it can do a lot with the data without any manipulation.
Right.
At the end of the survey, which we haven't set a deadline for it, but anything that's handwritten will have to be entered in, especially if we want to analyze through something that can do it like AI without having any bias, you know what I mean, and generating a report without having to go through I think we're currently at 163 responses. It's roughly 3% of the population of Buckfield, Hartford, and Sumner combined. I think ideally we'd like to see like 400, which would be about 10% at a minimum.
Yeah.
But it's really cool with what you can do. You can literally upload all the data from it, give AI a very direct request. You're like, give me an unbiased evaluation of what the survey results are, and it'll do it as in-depth or whatever you want, and it's understandable. So any of the paper ones are gonna have to be manually entered.
Yeah.
But if people do want them, we can either email them out or they can pick them up here, or I can even leave copies over at Hilton's and they can pick them up there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of older people don't use.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is that this is going to pass people by for, people who don't frequently. I can discuss it in the actual meeting too, but I think it would be great if we can at least mail them out the address to access the survey, even if it's not the survey itself, so that you can avoid that data entry, or they can avoid that data entry aspect. Because I can see how that could get overwhelming.
Yep. No, that's a good idea.
I'll bring it up. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
and all I was gonna say was that, the town voted to start a process, which we did. And they will have a chance to vote on it
Right.
again. Yeah, it's very complex, which is why we brought in the pros there. Consultant I was very impressed. She's excellent. And in the end, we'll have a recommendation we can bring to towns and put the votes on. So they'll have another chance. It's not like,
Right.
but even on the committee, it's not like we have a whole lot of opinion to put forth in it. That it's just going through the process, and in the end, there it is.
In the end, the decision's up to the voters.
Yeah.
It's not up to the committee. It's not up to any individual. It's up to the voters. And if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, but the committee's job is to come up with a withdrawal plan to submit to the voter or to submit to the Commissioner of Education and then the towns to vote on it. So it's pretty cut and dry. You got to go from A to B. Whatever C is up to the voters.
Very much laid out little process.
Right. And there's a lot of things in the back end, like the Education Ad Hoc Committee. You know, you can only get the information that the RSUs were to share. Obviously, they all have full-time jobs, and when you got committees coming in and requesting all this information, that's pretty stressful. But during this process, the school's attorney and the withdrawal committee's attorney work together to figure out how to get the information that they need. I think one of the things that came up was like inventory. You know, making sure school buses aren't switching schools or switching locations to, you know, getting that inventory locked down and stuff. So it's stuff that an ad hoc committee just didn't have any real power in doing. So I think it'll give everybody a much better picture than what the Education Ad Hoc Committee came up with. I'm not trying to discredit anything that they did, but they did the best with what they had.
Right.
Yeah. I think this will give a much clearer picture one way or another.
But
Not yet. I haven't personally caught them. I'm hoping I've put out enough notices about the roads being posted.
Throw the siren on the truck and start chasing them down.
I mean, that's the thing, right? You could have a face-to-face conversation, but if it goes downhill, it's one of those things. So I feel like this isn't new. We post the roads every year, and we just invested a ton of money into these roads, and we're going to destroy them if people don't just do the right thing. So I'm hoping it'll take care of itself. If not, and I do get. If I get it on video, I will send it to the sheriff's department for them to follow up on, because here I come, Mr. Town Manager.
somebody asked that, and I said, what do you suggest we do other than having it video?
I can't write out a citation.
Right.
But it seems like in years past, he's talked to them all. I talked to them.
Yeah,
And the buddy,
I'm not sure. And I'm not interested in like name dropping or pointing the finger at anybody. I mean, people who are doing it know who they're doing it. You know, there are certain exceptions, right? I issue a permit for Nickerson's if they have to do emergency services on septics. Like, that's understandable. Obviously, our trucks have to be on the roads if it's snowing. You know, if it's 14 degrees outside and everything's solid, go ahead. But if it's 40 degrees and it doesn't drop below 40 degrees all day, I'm sorry, the ground's soft everywhere. And to suggest that the roads haven't started to thaw out is just not we're gonna damage the roads.
Yeah.
And I already can't.
so people collect signatures, people have questions. We can discuss.
But yes, the concern has been brought to me by multiple people.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, and
This work here.
I mean, you think 53-foot load of pine boards probably weighs close to 50,000 pounds, so it's way over 23.
Steve and I were quite active. I lived in a hotel, the logging truck did not go by my house.
Yep.
That.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm hoping it's getting too warm for this. Like tomorrow, it's going to be cold. Probably be the last real good day that somebody can travel the road. But when it's 40 degrees out, when it's 50 degrees out like it was last week, there's no reason for it.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? No, I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 8:45 PM. Second. All in favor? That's all right. Thank you, everybody.
You guys signed everything, right? Thank you, Bob.
You did, your input.